Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another college football preview and predictions video. The team that we're going to be taking a look at today is our 2024 Michigan Wolverines football team, the defending national championships. We're going to take a complete preview overlook of the roster, seeing which pieces they lost from last year's squad, but also what pieces they're going to be bringing in this year, as well as looking at their entire 2024 football schedule, seeing which games we think they're going to win, lose, and what we predict the final score will be and their final record will be. So let's go ahead and take a look at this 2024 Michigan Wolverines football team. Vegas does predict them coming in at 8.5 wins. They have a pretty difficult schedule. Obviously, they are the defending national championships, but the team that we're going to see on the field this season is not the team that we saw on the field last season. Obviously, the coaching staff has been completely overhauled. Harbaugh has left for the Chargers. He's off to the NFL. He took the defensive coordinator with him. So Sherrone Moore, the guy who filled in for Harbaugh a lot last year, showed that he is more than capable of being a head coach, is now the head coach for Michigan. So they're probably going to stay pretty similar on the offensive side, but they also do have to replace their defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, and pretty much the entire offense went to the NFL. Their whole offensive line, the playmakers, running game, they only have one player coming back that was a starter last season on the entire offensive side, and that's the tight end. So a lot of first-year starters, and they're also kind of having a quarterback carousal right now. They haven't officially named a starting quarterback. They have 5 guys right now that are duking it out. There is some projected to be the starters, but everyone's kind of going with someone different as of right now. But Harbaugh's gone, J.J. McCarthy's gone, Blake Corum's gone, so a lot of new starters. Head coach Sherrone Moore, he has Kirk Campbell moving in as the offensive coordinator, but there's still the major questions at quarterback, wide receiver, running back, offensive line. The offensive line won top line 3 of the last 4 years. That's a massive loss. That's a lot of experience that you lost. You might be bringing in some really great players, but they haven't been starting for 4 years. That's one thing that Michigan was always really good at, is not necessarily getting 5 stars, but developing the guys they have and them getting a lot of snaps in the system. But running back Donovan Edwards, he's going to be the top running back. He will be filling in as the starter now, but they still have the questions at the quarterback position. But at least the tight end Colson Loveland, he's the lone starter coming back on the offensive side, and that's going to be a major security blanket for whoever the quarterback is. Look for them to keep the game on the ground, rely on the running game. That's what Michigan has done for so many years. That's what they're going to continue to do under Moore. They're going to take the game out of the quarterback hands, put it in the running back hands, rely on their new line, and do one thing that they still are more than capable of doing, playing great defense. The new defensive coordinator is Don Martingale. He's been on the team before. He's very familiar with the players they have. There's not that many questions on the defensive side. They are still going to have a top 10, top 20 defense no matter what. They do have some new starters coming in at some positions, but the defensive tackles, Graham, Grant, they're both back. There's a lot of talent on edge, and their secondary is going to be solidified. They have Will Johnson. They have more. So the defensive side of the ball is what is going to carry this team. But let's take a look at their 2024 schedule. So they kick things off Saturday, August 31st versus Fresno State. This is a game, it's going to be an easy game. You want to get the offense some reps. You want to get the defense a little warmed up because it's going to be a difficult schedule. But they're going to beat Fresno State. Let's say this game is going to be a 38-7 game, and they're 1-0. Then they follow that up Saturday, September 7th, a massive out-of-conference game, Big Ten versus SEC. You have Texas, but you do have Texas coming to Michigan. That definitely puts the ball in the Wolverines' court. Texas is coming to the big house. They're going to have 100,000 fans there. But Texas has a top 10 talented roster. Yes, they had a lot of players go off to the NFL, but they are extremely talented at the skill positions on defense. They're replacing a lot of offensive weapons, but this roster is built, it's stacked with an experienced quarterback. Don't get mad at me right now, but I actually have Texas going on the road and beating Michigan at Michigan in a low-scoring, close game. maybe like a 28-27, 28-24. Texas wins this one. But if Michigan beats them, I would not be surprised at all. It's almost a 50-50, and they would beat them in the trenches. But Michigan's 1-1. Saturday, September 14th versus Arkansas State. So I had them losing versus Texas. So now they need a couple games where they get things back on track. It's going to test more, getting the ship right, getting the roster organized. They're going to beat Arkansas State. And to me, they're going to beat them pretty bad. I'm going to say it's going to be a 40-3, and they're 2-1. They follow that up Saturday, September 21st versus USC. Obviously, we have Lincoln Riley here. No matter who your defense is, Lincoln Riley's always going to get his points. He always has a more than capable offense. They have Miller Moss stepping in as quarterback for Caleb Williams. They still have Branch at wide receiver. They're talented on offense, but will their defense be any better than last year? It obviously can't be any worse, but will they make steps forward? Whenever you have a team that's capable of a shootout, you don't want to take them for granted. But I have Michigan beating them. Let's put this one at a 35-21 game, and Michigan is 3-1. Then they follow that up Saturday, September 28th versus Minnesota. PJ Fleck sometimes has a really competitive team, but there's a massive talent gap here. Michigan's going to steamroll through them. Let's put it at a 44-13 game, and Michigan is 4-1. Then after that, Saturday, October 5th versus Washington. Obviously, this is a rematch of the national championship. Both teams look completely different. Both teams have new coaches. You have Jedd Fisch becoming the head coach for Washington, and pretty much their entire team left. They have a completely new team. They're not going to be ready for this game. Definitely not deep enough in the trenches. They're going to lose this one. Let's put it at a 38-17 game, and Michigan's 5-1. Then Saturday, October 19th at Illinois. Illinois had a pretty decent squad 2 or 3 years ago, but things have kind of fallen off since then. Michigan's going to fight them, but they will be a deep team in the trenches. But it's going to be a run-heavy game for both sides. Michigan's going to win it. Let's say 30-13, and they're 6-1. And then Saturday, October 26th versus Michigan State. Obviously, this is a massive rivalry game. Michigan State is also new head coach. They have Smith coming in as the head coach. They have a 5-star quarterback. But outside of that, their whole team went into the transfer portal. They're completely rebuilding, flipping the roster. There's also going to be a talent advantage for Michigan here. They're going to beat the rivalry game. It's going to be a 30-17 game. And Michigan is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they're 7-1 here. And then Saturday, November 2nd versus Oregon. This is a tough game. Oregon's new to the Big Ten. This is a top 5 talented roster. They had a top 20 offense last year, a top 20 defense, a very well-rounded team. As talented at the positions as anyone. They're going to have an experienced quarterback in Dillon Gabriel. They've been working recruiting. They've been working the portal. I have Oregon beating Michigan. This is usually one of those games that's so physical, it doesn't favor Oregon. But Oregon is actually really deep in the trenches. But this year in the Big Ten, it's going to challenge them. But I have Oregon getting the win versus Michigan. It's going to be, I would say, not a low-scoring game, but it's going to be like a 30-27. Oregon wins, and Michigan is 7-2. Then Saturday, November 9th versus Indiana. They're going to win that one. It's going to be a rebound game. It's going to be a 35-10 game, and they're 8-2. And then Saturday, November 23rd versus Northwestern. Northwestern won 8 or 9 games last season, came out of nowhere. They're not going to surprise Michigan this year. Michigan's going to beat them 38-13, and they're 9-2. Last game of the year, the biggest game, Saturday, November 30th at Ohio State. They're going to Ohio State. Really tough game. Obviously, Ohio State, some people have as number 1 or 2. It's usually flip-flop between them and Georgia. They have a top 3 talented roster. They've been owning recruiting. They've been owning the portal. They have a new quarterback. They have Chip Kelly calling offensive plays. They have Quinshon Judkins transferring from Ole Miss to there, joining Henderson, one of the deepest running back rooms in the country. They can play physical. They can throw, run. Their defense is just as good as Michigan's. They both have extremely good, great defenses. I have Ryan Day finally getting the burden off of his shoulders and beating Michigan. Not because he's the better coach, but just because you're playing Michigan on a flipped year when they're retooling after having won the national championship. But I have Ohio State beating Michigan finally here. So Michigan finishing the regular season 9-3. So I'm going to go with the over here because Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. But I think a 9-3 season is a really good season for the Michigan Wolverines because they have a tough schedule and they have a new coach, new coordinators, and they're replacing a lot of players. It's a good foundational point for the 2025 season. But they finished the regular season 9-3, strong season. Could that get them in the Big Ten championship? I don't think so. But I would not be surprised if they also go 10-2. And if they go 10-2, maybe they're looking at the playoffs. That's my breakdown of the Michigan Wolverines. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will respond. Thanks.